Have you ever had one of those conversations where you walk away feeling completely twisted around, exhausted, and just confused? Like you were arguing with a ghost? Well, today we're going to talk about why that happens, especially when you're communicating with someone who has narcissistic traits. We're going to get into the patterns, the psychology behind them, and most importantly, some strategies to help you navigate it all. This quote just hits so hard, right? It really gets to the heart of it. That feeling of being totally drained, questioning yourself, maybe even feeling guilty for something you didn't do. The key thing here is it's not in your head, it's a very real and often very damaging pattern.
So that's the big question, isn't it? Why do these arguments feel so circular, so pointless, so just impossible? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the actual mechanics behind this incredibly frustrating dynamic.
Okay, so first things first, we need to be clear about what we're actually talking about. Before we can spot the patterns, we have to understand what all the pieces of this puzzle look like.
So according to the American Psychiatric Association, narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a real clinical diagnosis. We're not just talking about someone who's a bit selfish or posts a lot of selfies. This is a deep, ingrained pattern of seeing the world that affects everything, how they see themselves, and how they interact with literally everyone else.
All right, now that we have a definition, let's dig into the why of it all. To really get a handle on the communication style, you have to understand what's driving the whole thing. And it pretty much boils down to two huge, powerful forces: a constant, burning need for status and a really deep, hidden insecurity.
At the very, very center of it all is this incredible, non-stop drive for social status. Think of it like a motor that never shuts off. It's this constant need to be seen as important, influential, and respected in any and every situation. Doesn't matter if it's a huge business meeting or just a family dinner.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. There are basically two main playbooks they use to get that status. The first is the admiration pathway. This is the "look how amazing I am" strategy. They build themselves up. But if that's not working, they can flip a switch to the rivalry pathway, which is all about tearing other people down. Two different roads, but they both lead to the same destination, them on top.
But why? Why this desperate, unending need for status? Well, it's really a massive defense mechanism. All that grandiosity, that confidence you see on the outside, you can think of it like a big, shiny suit of armor. And it's all built to protect something really, really fragile and wounded on the inside, often something that goes way back to childhood.
Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get into the what. What does this all actually look and sound like when you're in the middle of a conversation with them? These are the specific, predictable tactics and patterns that you'll start to recognize.
And here's a question almost everyone in this situation asks themselves. You think, maybe if I just explain it differently, if I just find the perfect words, then they'll finally get it. But the answer to whether they can see their own role in a conflict, well, it's a little more complicated than you might think.
This quote from a Reddit user is just perfect. Teflon for accountability. I mean, wow, it's such a brilliant way to put it. Nothing sticks. You can come with receipts, with facts, with feelings, and it all just slides right off. In their story, they are always either the hero or the victim, but never, ever the one to blame.
Here's another way to think about it, and it's a really powerful one. It's almost like they're colorblind to self-reflection. You know how someone who's colorblind can look at a picture and just not see the red or the green? Well, a person with these traits can look back at the exact same argument, the same memory, but they are neurologically and psychologically unable to see the parts that show where they were wrong. It's a genuine blind spot.
Okay, let's get really practical. This is like a decoder ring for those crazy-making conversations. You hear this one all the time. I never said that. That's gaslighting, plain and simple. It's designed to make you doubt your own mind. Or how about this classic, if you hadn't done X, then I wouldn't have had to do Y. That's blame shifting, making their reaction your fault. When they accuse you of being the controlling one, that's often projection. And of course, you're being too sensitive. That's just a way to minimize their behavior and invalidate your feelings. So when you put all these tactics together, you get stuck in what's called a circular conversation. And you definitely know the feeling. It's that hamster wheel of an argument that goes absolutely nowhere. You know you're in one when you find yourself trying to explain basic human decency, or when they suddenly bring up something that happened 5 years ago, and you always walk away feeling completely drained with zero resolution.
All right, so knowing all the patterns is a huge first step. But the most important question is, what can you actually do about it? How do you respond, and how do you start to heal?
This last part is all about strategies for taking care of yourself. Let's say you have to have a big, important conversation. You can't avoid it. You've got to go in prepared. First, put your antenna up. Be vigilant. Listen to what's being said, but also listen for what's not being said. Second, brace for impact. They often have a very low tolerance for frustration or criticism, so you can expect them to get angry fast. And finally, look, if the stakes are really high, we're talking legal stuff, custody, big career decisions, don't go it alone. Get professional help.
But honestly, at the end of the day, your most important job is to protect your own well-being. And that starts with this huge, liberating idea. It is not your job to fix them. Stop searching for the magic words, that one perfect sentence that will make them finally understand. It doesn't exist. Instead, pour that energy into setting firm boundaries. You don't have to win the argument. You just have to state your reality. And please, above all else, be kind to yourself. This is an incredibly difficult thing to go through.
And the effects of these kinds of relationships, they can last a lifetime. Just listen to what Susie says here. It's so powerful. For so many people, the path to healing is about untangling these old patterns that might have started way back in their childhood and finally learning how to give themselves the validation and love they were always missing.
So, after all of this, we're left with the million-dollar question. Can a person with these deep-seated patterns ever truly change? You know, the research and the experts will tell you that it's an incredibly difficult path, and it's a path they absolutely have to choose for themselves. And that leaves a really tough question for the people around them. At what point does your hope for their change start to cost you your own peace of mind?